Welcome to my channel. Today I will be reading from the Mammoth Book of Best Horror Stories, and today's story is called The Parasite by Robert Aickman. Robert Aickman was an English author who wrote weird fiction and horror stories. He was born in 1916 and died in 1981. His work was inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft and Emma James. And he was also a friend of Ramsey Campbell and shared similar interests with him, such as their love of fishing. And now, without further ado, let us begin. There was a chill in the air that spoke plainly of winter's approach. Yet the sun was shining brightly, and I found myself quite comfortably seated in an old Morris Oxford, the hood of which was up to protect me from the biting wind. The car was parked beside a wide, sluggish stream that meandered between high banks through woods of ancient oak and ash. My companion and I had been watching the surface of the stream for signs of trout, but so far without success. "It's no use," said my companion. "They won't be rising today." So we were about to depart when my eye was caught by a movement on the far bank. I pointed to it, and my companion, whose name was Lawson, joined me in gazing at the spot. At first we could see nothing clearly, but presently we made out the dark form of a man struggling to hold himself over the bank and up onto the road. He was dressed in clothes that looked as though they had not been made in recent years, and his face was hidden by a wide-brimmed hat pulled low. As he came closer, we saw that he walked with difficulty, dragging one foot after him like a man in a late stage of alcohol-induced paralysis. But even from a distance, I had a sense of something strange and frightening about him, as though he was some kind of escaped lunatic or criminal. When he was close enough, I wound down the car window and called to him, "Are you all right?" He looked at me, and I saw that he had no face. Not that there was anything physically wrong with it. It was simply that there was no features to it. His eyes were to black pits, and his mouth was a thin, dark slit in which there was something moving. Something that looked like a pale pink tongue flicking in and out. I stared at him in a sort of fascinated horror while he stood irresolutely regarding us. Then, as if making a great effort, he seemed to pull himself together and began to speak. His voice was a hollow, rasping whisper. He said, "Could you take me somewhere? I need shelter, a place where I can hide." Lawson and I exchanged glances. His appearance was so ghastly that I felt a strong impulse to drive away as fast as I could, but there was something about his voice that struck a discordant note of supplication. "What's the matter with your face?" I asked, though even as I did so, I wished I had not broken the silence. "It's a long story," he replied. "I've been ill. It's no one's fault. I don't want to bother you. I just want somewhere to hide." I knew perfectly well that what I ought to do was to get away as fast as I could. But as I have said, there was something about the creature's voice that stirred a reluctant compassion in me. "All right," I said, "get in. But I must warn you, I don't think Lawson would like having you in the car." The creature turned his head slowly toward Lawson, and I saw the pink thing moving in his mouth again. Then he turned back to me and said, "Thank you. I don't mind," and so saying, got into the car. I drove as fast as I dared, glancing nervously at my two passengers. The creature was slumped forward in his seat, and Lawson had gone deathly pale. When I dared to turn my head fully, I saw that he was staring at the creature, his eyes wide with terror. Then suddenly the creature straightened up and said, "You must turn this way." I did as I was told, and soon we came to an old derelict farmhouse which stood empty and forsaken, its windows like vacant eye sockets staring into the gloom. "Here," said the creature, "this will do." He got out and stood swaying on his feet for a moment, and then he was gone. I watched him go, And when I turned back to Lawson, I found that he, too, had vanished. I got out of the car and went to look for them, but I could find no trace of either of them anywhere. All I discovered was a shallow pit in the soft earth beside the wall, as though someone had recently been digging with a spade or a trowel. And in the bottom of the pit, I saw a small object that glistened in the sunlight. It was a false tooth. I picked it up and examined it. There was something peculiar about its shape, and I thought I could see some sort of inscription upon it. Turning it over in my hands, I saw that it was marked with a series of almost indecipherable characters, and these seemed to writhe and twist before my eyes like living things as I stared at it in a sort of fascinated horror. I felt an icy finger of fear creeping up my spine. Could it be possible that these grotesque symbols meant that the terrible-faced creature and Lawson had disappeared into some other dimension of time and space, taking with them whatever poor soul next comes along, lured by their dreadful tale of woe? Or was it merely that my imagination, stimulated by morbid fancy and a feverish brain, had conjured up a phantom horror and played upon my fears in a cruel and evil jest? Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Sleep Podcast. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe. Also check out our new podcast, the SCP Podcast, where we delve into the world of creepypastas. We would greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.